If you want Colts talk all year long, you're in the right place.
Fires it upfield, caught over the middle. Michael Pittman Jr., there he goes! He's at the 40, he's at the 30, slips out of a tackle, 20, 10, 5, touchdown! Michael Pittman Jr. takes it 75 yards to the house. Big run, angling left, 40, he's at the 30, down the near sideline, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor, a 49-yard gallop to pay dirt.
In the Indiana Union Construction Industry radio studio, let's get the podcast started.
Welcome to the official Colts podcast while we wait for Miss Larra Overton to finally take that last pull of some Gatorade.
Yeah.
We are out at Grand Park. JJ Stankevitz.
Pads, baby. We were cranking up the intensity. We were going at it today.
Hey, great practice today, the first one in pads, but just off the football field for a second. JJ, talk to me about this Grand Park, the way the Colts have it set up, the fans, the experience, everything so far.
It's great. I mean, this is one of the best training camp sites in the NFL, if not the best, just for the fan interaction, the fan experience. You know, we have Michael Pittman Jr. later on this podcast, and he took some time signing autographs to every single kid, you know, down the road just right over here. You really get to get up close and personal with the players, and it was cool. I was just down watching practice at one point when guys are warming up, and I could hear this one kid go, "It's Jonathan Taylor! Look, 28, it's Jonathan Taylor!" like sprinting down the stands. It's such a cool setup up here. If you haven't made it up here, make a trip. It's well worth the drive up here to Westfield. Catch a practice, catch a football. It's great up here.
Easy peasy in. Larra, how's your camp going? You know a thing or two about these training camps. I know you're a little sweaty right now. It is humid out here, but so far so good.
It's been great. I mean, really, every day, and this has been fun. Like, Shane's been very intentional with how they have ramped things up. You know, practices went from 60 minutes to an hour 15, then they did a 90-minute practice, then put the pads on. And so it's been, you know, Monday was their first off day of camp, so this is where you're going to start to see things, you know, pick up quite a bit in terms of those position battles. And I think one of the things for me that's been the biggest highlights of camp has just been to see Anthony Richardson stack consistent days, you know, one right after another, and that's really what you hoped to see from your second-year quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about Anthony, you know, the individual plays, you know, you can chart him, you can say, oh, he went 6 for 7 or whatever it might be. The real thing is the whole scope of all of camp. You know, you're working on stuff. You're working on plays. You're figuring out, does this play work? Does this play not work? Are we going to throw that play out? Are we going to add something to it? Are we going to tag another route on it? You're figuring a lot of this stuff out. And, I mean, absolutely, there's been nothing that Anthony has done that has dissuaded me from feeling like he's on the ascent the way that the Colts believe he should be.
First time in pads for this football team, so we did see some action of the ones versus the ones, offense versus defense. Just stick to him throwing the football right now with all the pads on. What do you guys think? How's he looking?
I mean, just, you know, the arm strength is there. You can see the pocket mobility. You know, that shows up on a day like this where it is fully padded. You are seeing, you know, like a real pass rush on him. Just those little slides left to right that he's got, those are so valuable for any NFL quarterback, but it's not something that every quarterback has.
Right.
And we've talked about this so much with Anthony, but it's just a good refresher seeing it out here that he is not a 1-2 to run. You know, if that second read isn't open, he's not looking to run the way that some quarterbacks kind of get bucketed into doing. He's a guy, it's 1-2, keep his eyes downfield. He might go to that third progression. He might escape the pocket. It becomes a scramble drill. And we're going to get into this guy later in the pod, but, like, my goodness, his connection with Josh Downs has been, like, it's been incredible to watch that so far during training camp. Just 5 practices in, but it's been really, really impressive.
Oh. One of the things for me that's been impressive is just the effortlessness that with which the ball comes out of his hands on some of those deep balls that we have seen. And it's so crisp. I mean, it is a flick of the wrist, and that ball just flies. And I was standing around kind of watching with some of the crew from NFL Network that was here Back Together weekend, and they have seen so much less of Anthony than we have, really, right? We get a little bit spoiled in seeing it day in and day out. And that's what a lot of those guys were talking about, like how impressive. And these are guys who've been bouncing around at camps all across the NFL, and they're like, oh, my God, you know, like just to see how effortless it looks, but the force with which it comes out of the hand. So that's something, too, that I don't know that we had necessarily enough time to see when we saw him last year, but that is something that I think is really encouraging to see his, you know, his comfort, his strength right now, all of those things really coming together to the benefit of all that work, not really even just that they did when they were together for OTAs and minicamp, but I think that that's a tribute to the work that he did going back and forth from Florida during the week, Indianapolis on the weekends, and then getting together with guys in various locations. Pitt told me the other day they went to Oregon and they were working out there together. There was a big group of guys that we saw went to California together, and that's really what you're seeing so far in the early part of practice is that type of work coming to fruition.
Hey guys, I said you were gonna come back to Anthony, but I want to stay right here if we can. Just let's ride this train out. How does JJ, with you first? How does 28 make 5 a better player, and how does 5 make 28 a better player? Because my thing from camp is we talk a lot about the weapons on offense, but boy, oh boy, Jonathan Taylor, it just seems doesn't get that sort of, we're talking about arm strength and who's going to catch the ball and everything. Monster year coming from 28.
Yeah, I mean, if you caught it in Chris Ballard's press conference last week, or he got asked about that, and he was just kind of like, Jonathan Taylor's going to have a big year. Like, the expectation around here is that you're going to see an explosive year from Jonathan Taylor. And that's what this offense needs to find explosiveness, right? That was kind of the issue last year. They were great in scoring points. They were efficient, but there wasn't the kind of explosiveness that you need to be a top-tier offense in the NFL. It was a very good offense, but it maybe wasn't, 10th in points, but bottom 10 in red zone,
a lot
stuff
of
like
that comes from that's not necessarily the skill set of Gardner Minshew.
Exactly,
so,
right.
I mean, that's,
the offense and
that's
and
not because of Jonathan or Pitt or the
same
guys
with Zach
who are
Moss,
returning.
right?
Yeah.
The two guys back there, the quarterback and running back, were very efficient players in Moss and Minshew, but they maybe weren't explosive, and that's okay. That's who they are in the NFL, and that'll earn them a lot of money and a lot of time in this league as good players. Richardson and Taylor they're explosive. And those two guys, you have to keep thinking about it this way. The Colts made, one big addition on offense in A.D. Mitchell, I guess you could say, this offseason? The biggest, and Jim Irsay brought this up during his press conference, the biggest additions the Colts made this offseason are swapping out Minshew and Moss for Taylor and Richardson on a consistent basis. That's what you're expecting. You do that, I think, to go back to your question, Jeffrey, about how it helps both players out, in the red zone, those two guys are such a weapon that if you're a linebacker, a safety, and you have to now account for both of those guys, you're a D-end, and you got to account for Richardson pulling it in addition to handing it off, it can just put a defense in a blender in a way that the offense was not able to get to last year.
Another guy that when you're kind of talking about maybe the depth of this offense and that, especially the red zone threat, who has been out here and you've seen him making some consistent plays, Jelani Woods, another one of those guys who I think is in that conversation when you talk about kind of off-season additions. You kind of lump him into that group because you missed him all last year. You had no idea that Jelani Woods that was going to get out here in July, right, when we reported training camp. So far there have been some flashes from him, and we're excited to see what that duo, or I guess trio, even when you kind of take everything into account, can be. Yeah,
it's one more thing on the offense is the fact that we're just not talking about the offensive line is great. I think that is such a testament, because remember when we were here last year, and it's like, it's the same 5. You're kind of given the hard sell on it being the same 5 with Tony Sperano Jr. as the coach, and now this year, it's not really much of a topic of discussion. You look out there, you go, hey, Bernard Ryman's having a good camp, Quentin Nelson's having a good camp. I thought Blake Freeland's done some good stuff at right tackle.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That is the one thing to talk about, is that Braden Smith got back out there today.
And then Braden Smith was back out there during full team for a period today, so that's good as the Colts kind of ramp him up. The offensive line is just, it's there, and it's good, and you feel really good about where that group is going into 2024.
Well, we'll stay on the offensive side of the ball for a second. I got a crazy question for you guys. When you look at the weapons in there, led by Shane Steichen, Anthony Richardson, obviously Jonathan Taylor, a bevy of receivers. You mentioned A.D. Mitchell. Guys, flat-out question. Everybody happy in this offense? I mean, at the end of 17 games and stuff. And I mean that, positively, but is everybody
getting in the mix enough? Is there enough ball to go around?
Is JT getting enough? People say 1,500 yards or more this year. A.D. Mitchell, what's he going to do? Because everywhere he's gone, he's just produced. Alec Pierce is a guy. You know what I'm saying, JJ?
As long as they're winning. I mean, as long as this is a team that's at double-digit wins and you're, going into the postseason, I don't think anybody's complaining about what their contribution is, because it's going to be this sliding scale of one guy's going to have a big week, and then the next week it's going to be another guy. And that's what I think is going to be a real threat, is that you can spread it around. I mean, and it doesn't have to be the same 1-2 guys week 1 that it is in week 17. I think you're going to see different guys strike based on different matchups that Jim Bob Cooter and Shane Steichen are going to be able to exploit.
I also think that heightens the competitiveness in this, where, okay, yeah, like Michael Pittman Jr. is not competing to start at wide receiver.
Right.
But, okay, you're competing with Jonathan Taylor for touches. You're competing with Josh Downs for targets. You're competing with the tight ends for reception. Okay, that's going to raise your level of play by saying, hey, I still think I should be a 100-catch guy in this offense.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Downs, a guy who no one's challenging him to start in the slot because he's so good. But, okay, if you want to get the ball, you got to keep getting open.
Okay.
And
sorry.
But just that level of competitiveness, I don't think it's a problem. I think that when you talk about, like, oh, is everyone going to be happy in this offense, to Larra's point, if you're winning, everyone's happy. And I think it also starts, too, with the leaders in that room being Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, those guys who are very much team guys, who are just, hey, if we're winning and I get 10 carries for 50 yards or I get 3 catches for 40 yards, but we won the game, fine by me.
I'll also say a couple of things to piggyback on that is now that Pitt and JT have those second contracts, that's another thing that you're not trying to earn that.
Yep.
You don't have to prove that. They, and it's not all about the money for them, but when you are in a contract year, it makes that a little bit more of a contentious issue in terms of catches and carries and all of those things.
Yeah.
And I talked to Pitt for a while after Saturday's practice. And was it Saturday? Were we out here Saturday?
Yeah, we were out here
Saturday.
Yeah.
Gosh, this day's already after Saturday's practice. And he was saying, if JT stays healthy, he's going to go for 2,000 yards. He's going to have another 2,000-yard season, from 2,000 yards from scrimmage.
Why not?
And he said, you have to game plan for him. That's one of the advantages is that he commands so much attention. And he's like, I can't wait to see this RPO game. He said, I hope there's a little bit more P than there is O, but exactly, he said, as long as we're winning games, that's what it's all about. And that just seems like that has been the mentality that has spread across this group, across this team from top down. And that all comes from just that consistent message that Shane Steichen is reiterating going back to like last year. Whatever it takes, it's about the team finding ways to get it done.
Well, takeaways we love to talk about in camp.
Why do I feel like a conductor? Like I feel like I'm very.
There's also a fly out here too that's bothering us a little bit. So I'm also conducting with you. But when we talk about what we're seeing out here at practice, and then we flip to the defensive side of the ball, JJ, I want to start with you. Reports are out there. Samson Ebukam, edge rusher for the Colts, suffered an injury. What effect does that have in that room right there?
Yeah.
And as far as like the other guys are out there, is there new faces possibly that the Colts are looking to fill, or is he right here on this roster?
So just to get the news out there, Shane Steichen did confirm today Samson Ebukam sustained a torn Achilles during practice on Sunday. Shane did not say he's out for the season. Now, whether that is he didn't say it or there is a shot that Samson can come back, I don't know that. Reports were that it was a season-ending injury that's out there from the NFL. Having said that, the Colts are deep at that spot.
It's tough to replace 9.5 sacks, though.
It is tough to replace that, but and I don't want this to sound like I'm glossing over it.
Sure.
Right? Because he's a really good player, and on like a down-to-down basis, like Samson Ebukam was not just a like you put him in on third down and he's going to get you 9.5 sacks. He defended the run really well last year. You look at some of just that play-to-play basis. He's a really consistent, really good player. Replacing good players is hard. It is not as hard when you have Taekwon Lewis and Laiatu Latu out there to replace him.
And Taekwon, I thought, has shown big flashes in the early part of camp. I mean, he had a really nice play that I saw earlier today. There have been a few different times when I'm like, okay, 94?
Taekwon last year, if you look at his numbers and his pass rushing productivity, he was the most productive pass rusher on the Colts on a per-snap basis in terms of getting pressures, getting after the quarterback, even though he was a rotational guy. So we know what Taekwon can do. Can we talk about the practice Laiatu Latu had today?
Oh, I hope you are.
We're talking about, okay, he had a good start to camp, first 4 practices. You've seen some good things. And then it's, okay, what does he do when the pads come on?
Right.
When the pads came on, holy cow.
Did you see that one-on-one session with the O-line? Oh, my God.
See, I missed this.
He was awesome.
I
was
down
session.
watching
My goodness.
quarterbacks at that point, so I missed it all.
The way that he uses his hands.
It's remarkable.
That's
what it is.
It is like, I mean, So those one-on-one reps did come against some
Maybe
backups.
that's why I'm so
you're right. You're
it
naturally
is.
doing it.
Yes. My Euro chop. I'm working it.
I
D-line
really
coach
zeroed in. D-line coach Ed, give us some commentary. I really zeroed in on when it was full team and they had Latu out there against Bernhard Raimann.
Mm-hmm.
And Bernie got him a couple times. Bernhard Raimann's a really good left tackle in the NFL. But at the end of practice, Latu had one rep where he got in the backfield, he would have had a sack against Raimann. And it was like,
what was the move?
I couldn't. I'd give you some BS jargon that I'm half making up. But you could just see that, okay, hey, you got stopped a couple times. He still goes. And he's going to figure it out. Going against Bernhard Raimann, that is a good NFL left tackle to learn against. And just also the motor that Latu has. There was one play where he was on the back side of it, and Richardson was rolling out to his right. And Latu's over Raimann on the left. And he chases him the whole way across the field. And it is hot. It is, middle of practice. I'm sure guys are getting a little gassed out there. And you saw no letdown in effort from Latu. These are all things we saw on tape at UCLA. The day he had today, I thought, was so impressive, especially in light of the circumstances of losing Samson Ebukam and saying, all right, hey, Rook, you're up. You're getting your first team reps, and you're getting out there in the pads for the first time.
I want to stay there. We talk about, is it more pressure on Latu with a veteran like that going down? I don't know that Samson Ebukam was a big vocal leader, but these rookies and these young guys that come in here and watch a veteran, just they watch them across the room, that's a good leadership skill to have. And I think that's what Samson brought to the locker room. But is there more pressure on Latu? I mean, he's got a heap of pressure on him as it is as a rookie.
That's what I think. I think that there's a lot of pressure on a first-round pick, no matter what. I mean, that's part of what goes along with it. I do think that he has insulated himself in such a good group that Coach Partridge puts so much responsibility on every single guy in that group that there's, they're not highlighting it or spotlighting it. I think that maybe you're going to feel it at certain points, right? Like he was super overwhelmed when he came out here for the first day, right? And saw all of that. And, maybe that first joint practice, he's going to kind of feel a little bit. And that first preseason game, I don't think he's going to feel that looming all the time. And that's going to be something that is on his shoulders day in and day out. I think that he has just such great perspective coming into this. And I think that he's also so focused on learning from the guys. And he has talked about that, wanting to just replicate what, looking at what DeForest Buckner does and be like, how do you do this? Looking at Kwity Paye, looking at all of the guys, looking at Grove. And so I think he's so consumed by all of that he doesn't have maybe the time or the effort to expend on, this is what people expect of me.
Yeah, he strikes me as a guy who doesn't really care about any of that because he's been counted out so much in his career that why would you care about that stuff?
Here's something, too, that I learned about Coach Partridge that a few different people have told me is that he focuses so much on doing every single detail correctly. Like, he is absolutely, obsessed with the details and, will not let anything slide. So I also think that accountability of Coach Partridge and how he is instilling that in the guys is going to allow him to be so focused on the details that the big things take care of themselves, right? The results are going to be there because Coach Partridge is reiterating and coaching and, mentoring this group in such a way that he's focus on A, B, and C, and then the words and the sentences are what, are the result of that.
Right. The results are also going to be there from Latu, because the details that he's being coached into are translating into, it's one thing to say you have great hands in college. And we're seeing it now, the way he uses his hands. Did they say that about you, JJ? Great hands in college. No one said that about me. No. These things are bricks. Can't catch anything. I mean, you put me on a jugs machine, and you put that thing at 60 miles an hour, I'm dropping, all of them.
We can do that for camp ends.
We could do that.
We could do that.
Well, yeah.
Yes. You want to see it? I do. Yeah.
You want to? I do need these to type.
Roberto Duran is a former boxer who's known as Hands of Stone.
Manos de Piedra. Hands of Stone. No, the way that he uses his hands, though, it's so developed. But it's one thing to do it against college tackles at UCLA. And what we're seeing is it's already translating. And I think all those little details that allow him to play fast that you're talking about, Charlie Partridge coaching up, I think you're seeing him not playing with a lot of thinking, a whole lot. You're seeing him play fast. It's something Gus Bradley talked about is that, when you hit this heavy install phase of camp and you're getting all this stuff thrown at you and it's all new because this is your first time in the NFL, and all of a sudden You get out there, Gus said, sometimes you see rookies not play with the sort of effort or intensity that you want to see.
There's no shortage
early
of that
camp.
in 97.
There's no shortage of that in 97, absolutely. And there's no shortage of impact plays we've seen him make so far.
All right, JJ, last thing on Latu for you. With a rookie of that at 15 overall, they're going to see the field is what I'm saying. And what this guy does is a sack master, and you guys know his career better than others. With this injury to Ebukam, does it change that he possibly slides into a first down thing? If Charlie Partridge and Gus Bradley have him, hey, he's our third down guy only. Now we got a little bit of a depth issue now. Now this kid's going to be getting more playing time?
I think Tyquan Lewis probably is your go-to early down guy, at least right now, as we're sitting here on July 30th. You're probably expecting Tyquan to be out there at defensive end opposite Kwity Paye on early downs. You could rotate Dio. Dangbo in there, certainly. Dio's dealing with a calf right now. He's not out there. But I think Tyquan's probably the guy you're looking at there. And then Latu starting off as you're coming in on passing downs. Having said that, if Latu can show that he can convert pass to run, you're out there and you got your ears pinned back and all of a sudden it's a run. Can you convert to that? Can teams run the ball at you and you hold your own? That's going to be a big thing for Latu to prove out here. I think those joint practices are going to be big for that. And if he can prove that, then you could start seeing him getting some more early down work during the season.
I mean, obviously here with the Arizona Cardinals, but man, look at that joint practice against Cincinnati. Think about how good of a test that is right there, where you have Joe Burrow, you have Zach Moss
Our
there.
old guy, Zach Moss, yeah.
So that whole offensive line, which is really strong, that's kind of an interesting.
That offensive line, that's a really good point. That Bengals offensive line is, on a per-player basis, the heaviest in the NFL.
They put some money out for that offensive line.
They put some money out for some big dudes on that offensive line. That's going to be a good test.
Indianapolis' own Teddy Karras among them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good
Cathedral
pull.
High
That's
School
a good pull right
product.
there, yeah.
That was a good pull. All right, we got camp standouts I want to talk. Michael Pittman Jr. is coming up. JJ had a chance to sit down with him just minutes ago, and you're not going to want to miss that with the veteran wide receiver. But let me start with you. Camp standouts. I know it's early and everything, but we've talked about some people that are shining. Obviously, the number one pick for the Colts, Latu. But who's stood out so far to you?
There's no question it's Josh Downs.
Yeah.
The camp he's having so far is making you think, this guy, the stuff we heard about him and okay, we really like Downs. We think he's in for a big year. Now we're seeing it out here. You can tell the rapport he has with Anthony Richardson has developed so well, even without them getting all those reps last year during the regular season, that, Josh was talking about this over the weekend, that he and Anthony kind of are starting to get that sort of unspoken communication of, hey, okay, you see that? Yeah, I'm seeing that too. Don't have to say anything. You run a choice route based on the coverage you're getting, and there's Downs wide open. The thing that I'm seeing out of Downs a lot more than I expected is the downfield stuff. He's getting the ball down the field, and he's catching it. He's making plays. Go ahead.
Can I tell you something that reminds me of when you have that tandem of draft classmates like you do at quarterback and receiver with Anthony and Josh? It is a little Luck Hilton-esque. You know what I mean?
Okay. We had Chris Ballard kind of make a little TY comparison to Josh Downs last year when we had him on the pod.
Right.
Yeah.
So that is there for me. A couple of camp standouts. I'm going to throw some things around. Welcome back, Julian Blackmon. My goodness, how good of an offseason, re-signing was that. Like the day that he had on Sunday.
Sunday.
A big interception.
Sunday.
You saw that clip that we put out right on social of his interception. So Shane Steichen goes, yeah, I'm back there, and I'm looking at that play, and I'm going, oh, we got one for the offense. My eyes went right to where Anthony's eyes went, and then all of a sudden, here comes Julian out of nowhere into the hook, and he picks that off.
Unreal. And I think he had a PBU later in that same practice.
Yeah.
From the rookie standpoint, I thought Jalen Simpson has been really strong in a number of areas that I saw him. And then the other guy who has been to me like the silent assassin on offense. Is this what you're going? Where are you going?
Oh, I thought you were going to your guy on defense.
J.C. Carlisle. I've said that. Yes, J.C. Carlisle. Jalen Simpson, J.C. Carlisle. I love this rookie draft class defensively. Not that I don't like it offensively, but I think we've talked a lot about that.
Yeah.
But collectively, my goodness, you have playmakers. I was going to say offensively, a guy who I have been really impressed with so far, and I feel like that this is a quieter conversation, but there's a lot of talk about the backup running back spot, and you have seen some real good stuff from Trey Sermon.
Trey Sermon had a good play today.
And it's been pretty consistent. And what I like about Trey is that there have been plays where they'll run something, stop, and then he'll run. So they'll go right back to the run, and he'll bust it open, you know. And there have been, you know, these big chunk plays that he's been able to accrue. That's a guy that I think people are probably like overlooking, and he could be having one of the like surprisingly more quiet kind of or maybe more like overlooked under the radar, but who has an opportunity to be a critical piece within this offense when you're starting to talk about preseason games, week one, all of that.
Yeah, you wanted to see someone emerge from that spot.
And I think he really has. I think he's really solidified himself.
Okay, I want to talk about Jalen Carlisle because, I mean, look,
he is huge.
Yeah.
Ronnie Harrison, too. That's another guy who's been like, I don't know. I'm so excited. Can you tell I'm so happy that practice is back?
Yes, it's great. We have real stuff to talk about.
JC Carlisle.
Did you see?
He's a monster.
Did you see the screen he blew up today? Where, like, the way that he worked back to the ball. See, that's why I wanted to tee him up for you. Because you've been talking about him, but it's like, here's this Mizzou guy talking about the Mizzou guy.
No, I have been. But there's like, seriously, like, I know it sounds like I'm being a homer here, but like, truly, like, all of them have had days where it's been like, you can't miss, you know?
I think J.C. Carlisle is going to get himself into the mix to be the third linebacker.
Really?
Here, Gus Bradley kind of mentioned that over the weekend of like we're working him at will, which is behind EJ.
It was like practice 1 or 2 where he had like
he had the first interception.
Camp.
Yeah, tip ball on a. But he's working behind EJ as the will. But I think the Colts aren't in base a whole lot, right? You're looking at 10% of the snaps in base.
He got that interception, and I actually ran down the field to JJ. I was like, did you see Mick?
Yeah, my guy, M-I-Z. I think he could get a real look at that third linebacker spot.
Well, this is going to be fun because the pads are out this week, and first one is in the books right now. I'm just going to throw a name out you. I zeroed in on today on the one-on-ones. I'm not going out of our lane here, but just watching Quentin Nelson work. I'm serious.
I wrote his name down at one point.
Just watching him work, like especially in the one-on-one drills, it's almost like I don't know how to put it, but if a lion cub gets out of the way a little bit, the mother's over there to bring him back in. It's the same thing watching him, especially with a defensive lineman gets a little bit chippy. He's like, hey. You know, telling them right what to do. Plus, they're going nowhere. He's a stone wall in front of him. I was just watching him for 10 minutes, and I'm like, I'm going to throw his name out there as a guy that we rely on and everything. But, gosh, the best in the business watching 56.
Yeah, I caught a couple of his reps in one-on-one, and it's like, yep, all right. He's as good as you remember him being.
As advertised, right? Business as usual up there. Yeah.
All right, time now. Let's throw to Michael Pittman Jr. interview. JJ, I got a question for you before we throw to it. Who's taking care of his farm when he's out here? In Westfield.
I think that's a better question for Larra.
I know this.
Larra?
Yeah. Well, they are very fortunate that they have some family help. So his wife's family is here in town, and they have been pitching in. But he also gives a lot of credit, and we found this out when we did Behind the Colts with him. So they help out. His family helps out, his in-laws. But then also a lot of their neighbors will pitch in. That's something that's very common within the farming community is, you know, people go out of town or, you know, on vacations or this and that. And so you'll have neighbors who will come over to, you know, tend to the chickens and feed your cows and, you know, and take care of the horses and do all of that. So it's kind of a pitch-in community collaboration effect, but a lot of it falls on Pitt's father-in-law.
Hey, it takes a village.
He's right down the street.
It takes a village. I don't know how to run a farm.
Because, you know, Pitt's wife is busy with the kids. She's got and certainly Kiana does a ton of the work, too. She's very hands-on with it all, but she also has 2 little ones, and they were out here at practice today. She's trying to bring them out here to get some time with Michael. And
I love it.
Hey,
tip of the hat to Michael Pittman Sr., the most violent runner I've ever remember in the NFL. As
he
a
was
running
out
back.
here, too. He came out for a couple days. I thought it was really cute because he had on Michael Pittman Jr.'s T-shirt. He was wearing his son's T-shirt, and I said, that's kind of a role reversal for you, right, Pitt? Like, you were probably that little guy wearing your dad's Buccaneers jersey, right?
He was a dominating runner like that. Anyway, sorry. I had to ask a little bit about the farming with Michael Pittman Jr. Our own J.J. Stankevitz had a chance to catch up with the wide receiver just after practice today.
Today was the first day out here at training camp that pads went on. You're someone who has a history of liking to hit people at the wide receiver position. What do you enjoy? What do you relish about the first day pads come on at training camp?
I just enjoy when all the defensive players are like hyping it up. Like, oh, we got pads on today. We got pads. Like, we're going to hit today. And then we just come out and have a normal practice. So that's usually like my favorite part of the day, just like laughing at them like while they're talking trash, like in the locker room.
There have been a couple of skirmishes out here. Mm-hmm. Are those overblown? Like the training camp fights or, you know, you getting a little scuffle. Are those overblown with, like, the attention they might get on, like, social media? Like, oh, Pitt got in a fight. Like, Does it matter when you get back to the locker room?
No, I don't think it does. I mean, like, we're all out here competing, and like, in my mind, I have a certain way that I think practice should go, and others might have a different way. So when there's a miscommunication, stuff like that happens, and like, it doesn't go further like than out here. Like, there's no personal agenda. Like, just like, I'm not out here trying to injure anybody, and they're not out here like trying to injure me. But it's just competitive fire mixed with some miscommunication. But I feel like we're getting to a point to where we can understand each other.
Anthony Richardson, just 5 practices in, you spent a lot of time with him in the off season, that throwing session out in California. Like, what's one area that you can just feel that year 1 to year 2 growth out of Anthony?
I just feel like he's more comfortable, like, with the plays. I feel like he understands it better, like he can read it better, and I feel like we're really doing well on our down the field throws. And that's something that we haven't had really too much like in the past. So just seeing him be able to do that, I feel like we have a lot to look forward to.
This offense over the last couple of years obviously hasn't been as able to get the ball downfield, to push the ball downfield. You have weapons. We've seen you do it. Like, I think about that one in Baltimore in 21 where you went up over the guy 50 yards downfield. You've got 80, you've got Alec. I've seen Josh get some balls downfield. What about this receiver core can also unlock that part of this offense?
Absolutely. I mean, we got a bunch of 6'2 plus guys. A lot of guys like that have speed. Like, you got Josh, who's like going to run all of our intermediate, deep, short routes, and like, he's got speed on him. You got Anthony Gould, who's actually been killing the deep ball too. So we just have a lot of height, a lot of speed, and we're going to show it.
When you were in year 2, did you get like a better understanding of like where your routes fit within the offense that maybe you didn't have in year 1? And if you did, how did that help you kind of have that breakout year 2?
Yeah, like, the way I see it is like, another thing that people don't understand is you have to run your offense, right? So you kind of do like what you're asked of, right? And that year that I had like with Carson, they asked me to run all those deep routes. And then Matt came in, it kind of shifted like to intermediate routes, and then the season went how it went, and then we were just kind of doing whatever we could. And then last year, like, you have to play to your quarterback's strengths, right? And Gardner was really good at throwing those intermediate passes. So that's kind of what we stuck to. And, like, we had a couple deep ones in there. I mean, like, he threw some nice passes too. So, and Anthony's strength right now is really throwing it deep. So, throwing deep passes. So I had to clarify that. So, yeah.
I looked it up, and last year you led the NFL in receptions on RPOs by like an 8-catch margin. It was like you were at 20-something and Zay Flowers is at like 14. That was just the flow of the offense, though.
Yeah.
And those RPOs are always probably going to suppress your like yards per. Yeah. So knowing that the offense will still have those in there, but it might not be as heavy with that, do you kind of expect that stat, that yards per reception, to kind of naturally just go up with the progression of this offense?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping it goes back up to where I was in year 1, and then year 2. I think I was hovering somewhere between 13 to 14 to 15-ish. So that's where I'm expecting it to go back to, and then like, it's not bad to get those passes, because anytime I'm getting a target, like, there's always a chance like that I break one and score. So whether it's a 2-yard pass or a 20-yard pass or a 50-yard pass, I mean, like, I'll take it all.
I'm going to steal this from a podcast that Kevin Clark does with ESPN with Omaha Productions, and he does this badass segment where he just asks guys, who's the biggest badass you've ever played with? And I wanted to ask you this, because when I'm out here at training camp, I look and I'm like, man, Pitt's such a badass out there on the field. But who is your badass, like the biggest badass you've ever played with or against in your career?
That's so tough, because there's a lot of bad dudes. The guy that immediately came to my mind was Zaire Franklin, just because he's the one guy that I know that when he is talking about it, he really means it. So I'd probably have to say Z.
it's easy to talk, but it's not as easy to back it up.
Absolutely, and like he's with it every single day. Like some guys can talk and then kind of just be like, okay, like it's like the next day. No, he's talking every day, and he's coming every day with it. Every play, he talks so reckless. He doesn't care who you are, and he's backing it up every single time.
Like when you take notice of that on offense, of like, you know, a defensive guy like Z who set the franchise record for tackles in 22, and then he broke his own record in 23. How does, even on that side of the ball, how does that push you guys as an offense to be better?
Yeah, I mean, like it just shows me that it's just it is a example of like tenacious play, and like I've always told myself that I want to be the most tenacious, violent player like in the whole stadium, like every time I'm playing somewhere. So when I see someone else like raising that bar, like I got to take it to another level to not only match that but go one step further. So like he sets that bar pretty damn high.
How have you noticed like your teammates in the receiver room kind of following you over the years and starting to look up to you as an example of the way that, you know, Reggie wants it played, the way that Shane wants it played, the way that the Colts as a franchise want that position played?
Yeah, I mean, I think that just comes from doing what I say. Like I never tell the guys like something that I don't plan to do myself, right? So I think that they take me seriously like every time I say something, because they know that Pitt's not just talking about it, that I'm about it every single day. So I think that helps, and they know I'm always there to back them up. Even in some cases, like if, like, let's say that they're wrong, but like I'll back them up, and then I'll talk to them like one-on-one. I'll be like, you know what, like, just like you weren't right, but I backed you up. Like, let's talk about it now and let's fix it. So, and like sometimes it happens to me, right? And like they come to me like be like, yeah, Pitt, like I backed you up, but honestly, like just like that wasn't the right thing. So we have that open kind of discussion like in our room.
A.D. Mitchell talked about how he just kind of like texted you this offseason, like, hey, where are you? I'm going to come to you. What did that show you about his dedication to work and to learn from a leader in this room?
Yeah, I mean, it showed me that he is serious and that he is ready to work, because anybody that does my off-season program, I think I have the best off-season program like in the whole NFL. Like I think what I do to like prepare every single season propels me to take that punishment and the grueling season without losing too much, right? Because everybody's going to lose a little bit because football is just so hard and freak things happen. But I feel like that's what really gets me through the season is what I do in off season and everything that I break it up, like my like schedule, and just trying to show him that so he can kind of jump off of a higher, like just like a higher jumping point early on, like in his career, could help him play for longer than he thought he could.
What sort of stood out to you just about your interactions with AD, like in that week that he spent with you and the work that you guys put in?
His willingness to just do everything without question. So, like, in off season, I'm getting up at 6. I'm going to rehab at 7, lifting weights at 9. We're doing speed work at 11, and then we're doing routes at 12. So, and he just jumped into that. And he didn't complain. He didn't say, hey, Pitt, like, this is, like, too much. Like, he just did all of it. Like, he did, like, all of that work. And he didn't just do it one day. He did it for 2 weeks. So it showed me that he's, like, really about that, and that he wants to do everything that he can to learn and be better. So which means, like, a lot to me, because, like, I always love guys who I think work as hard as me. So like, I think that he works hard.
How did you develop the off-season workout regimen, nutrition regimen that you just talk about there?
Yeah, so over time I kind of refined it, and I really got to it like 2 years ago. So 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, we're rehab, we're lifting weights, we're doing speed work, and then running routes. And then that also leaves, well, let's say footwork, because sometimes we're running routes with quarterbacks, but most of the time, like, we're doing footwork and drill work. And then on Wednesday and Saturday, it leaves room to throw with quarterbacks. Like, I've thrown over this break with Bryce Young, Jordan Love, C.J. Stroud, just out in Orange County, and then of course Ant, just when everybody came out. So we just kind of get it in, and that Wednesday and Saturday is just kind of left to freestyle. There was a couple of times where I went and did Pilates. So I'm not a big Pilates guy, but my wife convinced me to go, and I actually, it's cool, I got myself one of those little class passes, right? And I went to probably 5 classes, and it's tough, but it's a good off day, active recovery deal.
Something Speed told me about Pilates. He's a big Pilates guy.
Is he?
He is.
I didn't know that.
He also was I don't know how to define a Pilates guy. I was just you're a Pilates guy. He's am I a yogi? He said it puts your body in awkward positions. So when you get hit on the field, or you're delivering a hit on the field and your body's in a unnatural position, it's a little more used to it.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah, definitely, because they put you in these spread out positions, and then you hold it, and you're pushing through it, and you're all spread out. So I definitely can see that, what he's talking about.
Last one for you. It's really cool seeing you out here with your family, right? Playing with your kids out here on the field. How has being a parent changed kind of your outlook on playing football?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely brings you down to reality, right? Because you got kids who they don't really know anything but dad, right? So they don't really know that I play football. They don't care, and just it forces you to be the same guy every single day, because they count on you for everything, right? And even when you might not feel like it, you just can't lack, because obviously I'm trying to raise these kids to be better than me. So it just forces me to be the best version of myself at all times.
Is it too, you get home from a game, whether you won or lost, it doesn't matter to your kids. You still got to,
They don't care if I'm having the worst day ever. I'm just their dad. I'm there to serve them. So, which is how it is, though, because those are my kids. I chose to have kids, so obviously they come first in every single situation.
It's real cool. Michael Pittman Jr. joining us here on the official Colts podcast. Thanks for the time, man.
Thank you, guys.
Well, the position coach of the wide receivers is a guy who knows a thing or two about being a dog.
A pretty good one.
And Reggie Wayne calls Michael Pittman Jr. a dog, and I'm sure we'd agree after that interview.
Yeah. My favorite, I wanted to ask that badass question to him, because I love listening to Kevin Clark's podcast, This is Football. And he asks players, who's the biggest badass? And I was like, well, if someone asked me who that guy is, I'm like, well, training camp. I was talking about this with a friend, who are your favorite training camp players in my career? So I was like, all right, with the Colts, it's Pitt, it's Zaire. Are those two guys that came to Grover?
I got one for you.
Then in Chicago, I was
Khalil Mack?
Khalil Mack.
I knew it.
Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks, and Kyle Long are my guys in Chicago, who I loved watching. But I'm out here, for that guy to be a wide receiver, it's whew, you got to be a real badass to get out there. So I'm glad that he also then said Zaire as his answer. Because, and I love that answer of Z talks and he doesn't stop talking, but he backs it up.
He backs it up.
And I love that respect there.
Is there an offensive player that thrives on the first day in pads more than Michael Pittman Jr.?
Well, because his answer, the answer he gave me was great. Of you got all these defensive players talking about, it's great. First day in pads, you get to hit someone. And then he's it's just a normal practice.
Yeah.
Because he treats every practice the same, which is he's going to go out there and kick someone's butt.
I love it. All right, guys, we're saying goodbye right now, but we do have practices this week, padded practices as well. What do you see? What do you want to see Shane Steichen and these Colts be a week from now? What do you want to see accomplishment offensively and defensively over the next couple of practices?
I think you want to see a little more just cleanliness from the offense.
Okay.
There have been
clean up what, JJ?
There have been some bad snaps, few penalties,
couple
just sloppiness.
Today, I do want to give a shout-out to Saguna Luby because he had a punch-out on a play.
Okay.
He punched the ball out from Mo, and it was a real punch-out. It came within the rhythm of the play. It wasn't like he was tackling and then he went to the ground because you can't tackle. You're just thudding. And he had a real punch-out. But
that is a large claw to get a punch-out on, too. When you're talking about, Mo.
You just want to see a little bit more in terms of the pre-snap stuff being okay. It's been good.
trying to do my pass blocking here, and it's not working. Overton's got me. Spin move.
This is even better that we're doing it on video now, so we get to see.
By the way, D1 athlete
move.
here, and the only thing I did, I worked a grill in college. That's what I did. You played sports, so.
What was on the grill? What are you flipping? Burgers?
Oh, fired after 2 days. Yeah, it was one of those things.
What?
I just, showing up late and not giving a rip. You know what I mean? It was just like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this.
Hands of stone.
It was in Saginaw Valley. It was in Saginaw, Michigan, guys. So it was a bit of a podunk thing. That's for another podcast, but we'll have fun with it. Maybe I can get my manager on the phone and find out why he fired me.
That sounds great, actually. Guest next week?
Yeah, let's go to Saginaw.
Let's go.
I love it. All right, guys, this is fun. We're here, obviously, on the Colts Audio Network and YouTube. We appreciate you guys joining us. A big thanks to Kevin Connors today, who's been sitting in the sun filming us today. A beautiful day up in Westfield, guys. Enjoy it. Follow him online and on social media, obviously, at Colts.com, at JJ Stankevitz, at Larra Overton.
I got tackling dummies to get to over here.
Yes, Larra Overton is a defensive menace.
Machine I need to.
I'm about to hurt my neck, I'm afraid. Guys, we'll see you next week. Don't forget all the new information that you want. Follow these guys online, and it's also at Colts.com. Thanks for watching.